today I'd like to be providing the overview of the recent report that we have produced with the Pharma Intelligence team, the landscape of advanced technology companies in pharmaceutical industry. And the report has been launched today, the final edition. So the report basically goes over a number of technology areas from artificial intelligence to quantum computing, lab automation, robotization, big data infrastructure providers, various supporting services with advanced technologies, and also the advent of big tech corporations in the pharmaceutical space. So in the report, we have profiled the more than 100 companies in these categories, and we found out that the area of the pharmaceutical research is being rapidly changed and even disrupted by the emergence of these technologies, which basically provide tools to make more efficient drug discovery, more efficient clinical research, and more efficient business operations. So all these technologies are highly complementary to each other. They kind of have synergies, and convergence is the most important thing right now for the acceleration of this technology trend in the pharma industry. So I'd like to start with the big tech corporations expanding into the life sciences, because this is the kind of the big players entering the space, and they are providing quite unique opportunities for everybody with their resources. So as you can see, companies like Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tencent, and they are with many moves, like direct investing in the biotech companies and startups, acquiring companies, or launching pilots, R&D pilots, R&D collaborations, joint programs and products, and even joint labs with some pharma players, including big pharma and smaller companies. The Google is the apparent leader in this trend right now, with a quite diverse portfolio of companies and areas where it is expanding. So they pretty much do a lot of big data analytics projects together with pharma partners, even quantum computing, and they also have healthcare technology projects, drug discovery projects, and they're fairly active in oncology space. And some subsidiaries of Alphabet Incorporated focused on the life sciences include specifically Verily, Cali Labs recently launched in the form isomorphic laboratories, and DeepMind. DeepMind is actually not a life science subsidiary, but they have been very active in this space and have quite a steer in the media recently. So I guess the most known discovery recently is the DeepMind's AlphaFold, which basically learned to predict the 3D shape of proteins from amino acid sequence. And I guess everybody in the drug discovery community is pretty familiar with this. And it means a lot for the drug discovery, for computational advance of this field. Although many questions still remain, many advances still needs to be done here, but it's in its sense a really great endeavor. Verily is the life science arm of Alphabet, and it focuses on many things, including medical devices such as surgical robotics, development of sensors, for example, glucose monitors, disease detecting nanoparticle platform, etc. So they have a lot of collaborations with pharma, including big pharma players. And very interesting case is Nvidia, because actually we have known that this company as a gaming company and as the producer and inventor of GPU acceleration, but actually they have quite an impressive entry into the pharmaceutical space, for example, with their Clara Discovery platform, which is a collection of frameworks specifically for the life sciences, many tasks from genomics applications, language models, modeling of biomolecular systems, cheminformatics, image analysis, and even analysis of cryo-electronic microscopy, which is really a great tool set. It's a couple of words about China, the rise of China, because companies like Tencent, Baidu, and other big tech players from China kind of competing with their Western big tech counterparties. And they also are quite impressively entering this space. For example, Tencent launched iDrug, which is a comprehensive platform for drug design based on deep learning. And it has many projects in healthcare and so on. So, but big tech is not the only source of AI movement in this space, and I'd like to briefly go through the so-called AI first biotechs. Basically, I'm referring here to a number of companies in drug discovery space who have been launched primarily as the technology first companies, meaning that they started to build some computational platforms at the core R&D strategy, and then they kind of integrated biology into it and built the whole spectrum of computational resources to do the drug discovery from the very early, biology research and even literature search, or and building ontologies, model on diseases, all the way to hit discovery, lead identification, and ultimately to developing drug candidates using in silico methods. And very nice example here, by the way, is Moderna, which is from vaccine development space. But the company has been grown from early days as the digital biotech, so to speak, and they have articulated this business model many times in their press releases. And basically, the rapid launch of the vaccine last year and the rapid development of this vaccine and scale up of the production was in a great part attributed to this technology comprehensiveness of the business model that the company has. So they started with the infrastructure, automation, robotization, and integrated artificial intelligence in many processes, research processes and operational processes. But I will be talking more about this kind of companies much more in detail tomorrow during my talk on the AI companies. So tune in tomorrow for this particular part. So the next topic is the autonomous labs and lab automation and robotization, which is a quite impressive and interesting trend these days. So there is a number of companies who basically creating infrastructures for running preclinical experiments and gathering data remotely using a plug and play kind of model. And in my opinion, this is kind of new contract research companies emerging right now, which will ultimately lead to more rapid preclinical research, more scalable data gathering projects, and more standardized way to do research in general. So, for example, in a typical scenario, the company would, the pharma client would ship samples to the facility and then design own experiment to collect data or to measure something, and then the company would conduct the experiment according to the customer's protocol using their system, automatic system. Robots would be doing some measurements in real time, monitoring, etc. And then based on the obtained data, they would build a knowledge graph, they would build a repository of data, make sense of that data, and come back to the client with already kind of models of what they get in various areas. The same kind of thing is doing, for example, Arcturus. They are basically automating these preclinical experiments using their robots and AI. And this is the very nice and efficient way to do preclinical research these days. The next chapter is the quantum computing, and well, we are in early days of this trend. It's a lot of hype right now, but I have been talking to founders of some of these companies and basically trying to find out what's going on here. And the message here is that quantum computing is already kind of useful in a number of applications, custom applications for a number of cases. And in particular, it's important technology to help advance the machine learning field, and also solve some optimization problems, simulation model and modeling. And this technology would basically kind of revolutionize the area of machine learning and artificial intelligence as we know it. So I would say this is the really important enabling technology to run all the other computational technologies in pharma, and not only in pharma. So the companies like Xtalpi, Zapata Computing, and many others, they are kind of doing this quantum computing thing. And there is also some services in clouds where you can access quantum computing resources in cloud and create projects. Of course, big data providers are one of the most important part of the deal in the pharma space, because we're entering the data-driven economy these days, and data is gold. So, and why is that? Is because the artificial intelligence means nothing without data. So you cannot train high scale and high generalizable models, deep learning models, without data, without enough data, and the data has to be quality. So many companies, they kind of try to provide this data in various business models, types, and formats. For example, one of the examples is the consumer genomic testing companies, which on the one side, they collect genomics data on scale, but then they kind of can sometimes license this data under certain conditions to run drug discovery experiments, although many challenges in regulatory and data protection remain, but still this is the trend that is going on. Some companies, they create kind of knowledge lakes and make sense of different data sources, like, for example, medical electronic records, bulk cell RNA sequencing data, clinical trials, insurance claims, and everything in between, biological literature, genotypes, etc. And they kind of create accessible and standardized data knowledge lakes, data lakes with this knowledge accessible for further experimentation, model training, etc. Another example is this company. So advanced technologies are also used in many supporting services. Like, for example, BenchSci, Google-backed company, is using deep learning for their software, where the user can basically design an experiment and find the most appropriate antibodies or other biological reagents. Essentially, this is a game changer for this kind of stuff. Another example of some supporting services is Stratos Labs, which are essentially the respiratory management solution. And the way they do, they essentially partner with clinical trial partners to integrate their system for some cases, some use cases for drug discovery, biomarker development, and etc. Another example are the companies that use artificial intelligence, cloud, and blockchain to help create kind of integral communities, connecting data suppliers, R&D guys, and patients into kind of integrated systems where everybody can collaborate on certain terms. The legal and management aspects are taken care of, and this creates efficiency, of course. So, of course, all these advanced technologies, all these companies, they enable new business models. For example, there is the business model of platform-based drug discovery, where in contrast to good old practices where many laboratories collaborate, this is kind of disintegrated process where people send sample here and there. One laboratory does something, another laboratory does something else, and they kind of collaborate all together. Instead, there is a new wave of companies who create the end-to-end platforms to essentially have everything sorted from the very, mining data and knowledge ontology building, disease model, and all the way to preclinical drug candidates. So they do it as a service, or they do it for their own portfolio pipeline molecules. And of course, as I already mentioned, the contract research space is moving towards this plug and play model where you can run preclinical experiments remotely. And I believe this trend will be growing. And also, if we talk about artificial intelligence, there is now a very big need for kind of training big models with data from different partners, because many companies have data, but data sharing is a problem because the data is kind of private property of everybody. Nobody wants to expose their IP. So technologies like, for example, federated learning, they are kind of helping manage this thing where, for example, the centralized machine learning model can be trained on edges where, let's say, data is not shared with anybody, but each partner trains a part of this model, kind of instance of this model, on their local machines, on their local equipment, and then only the learning calculations, they are shared with the overall system to update kind of weights of the model. And then that model gets more generalizable, gets more smart, and can be used by every partner who is involved in this kind of project. So one example is Melody project, which is doing that based on blockchain data exchange protocols. And finally, of course, everybody is now using cloud. I mean, it's not imaginable now to do research without being able to run calculations in cloud, storing data in clouds, manipulating data, etc. So everybody is dependent now on that, and I believe cloud is one of the key enabling technologies in the pharmaceutical industrialization of research, I would say. With that, I'd like to conclude this presentation and essentially invite you to check our data analytics platform, where you can basically have some marketing industry analytics for yourself, check some companies, investors, and so on. And also check our reports. We are publishing a lot of reports these days, and I believe you might find them useful. And we are open for strategic collaborations, joint analytical reports, etc. So drop us a line, and also make sure to get in touch with our company and with myself at Twitter, Biotech Oracle. Thank you very much.